Hi, welcome to Hardin Life Live. I'm Abigail Hardin. We have Carla, Phil. We're missing Audrey today, but we are a family of coaches and counselors here to help you in just everyday life seasons. So this month we're focusing on unhealthy patterns. I already wrote a blog on just kind of an overview, but this month, this is Carla, or this week, she is really addressing women. But Dad, you can always pipe in, let us know from your perspective dealing with a household of women. So, Mom, what inspired you to write this blog?
Well, hon, you did a great job last week talking about men and their unhealthy patterns. And we all can get down unhealthy patterns, and we don't even know how we got there, but we're doing it, and we keep doing them because we think they're effective. And when I sat down and thought, what are women's generic unhealthy patterns? I came up with 3, and sadly, they all trace back to Eve, our mother, so to speak, of all women. And Eve really set us up to try to take our fulfillment and our joy in our own hands. And in her attempt to do that, even in a perfect world and in the garden, she really didn't. She got away from what she knew to be true, who God was, consulting with others. And it was almost like, and this sounds so funny and up to date, but it's like Eve was FOMO. She had the fear of missing out. Even though she had everything, somehow she thought, and the serpent invited this, and she believed it, that God might be withholding from her. And I really believe that's where all our bad patterns as women originated. And for lack of trying to tell it all, I summarized it in 3 bad patterns that I see crop up. And the one, ladies, tell me if you agree, we tend to micromanage. We micromanage. And then the one that most of us have no idea is a bad pattern, we actually think it's a good pattern, but it's not, is disempowering those around us by doing for them. And then my last one was we criticize instead of asking for what we actually need. Does that resonate?
Yeah, well, that's some big 3 points.
It certainly does resonate, and yet, I have learned that when fear is present in the room, love just left. And fear is certainly the opposite of love, and somehow Eve in the garden did not trust God, that the enemy had her ear. Yeah. And what is critically in need in order for trust to be established is women and men, for that matter, all of us need 4 things.
Okay.
We need to be seen, we need to be soothed, we need to feel safe, and we need to feel secure. And so, as a way to even acknowledge the need for empathy with these women that I live with and that we all live with that may get involved in those bad patterns, women are in those bad patterns because they don't know how to trust those around them to be seen, to be comforted or soothed, to feel safe and secure.
Well, I think that is really a good take because, yes, we are speaking directly to women, and Mom, you did a great job because, just a FOMO, but it's a fear of missing out, but recognizing it's still a fear. And it's a fear that's preventing us from love. And on the receive, but what I'm hearing from you, Dad, too, is that, if we want to feel seen and loved and have that empathy, we need that from our partners or the men in our life to help and have the yang to the yin to the yang is kind of a way, but it balances. If women feel that more of that security of feeling seen, that's going to lessen our fear. We're going to be more on the receive. And also, I think we all need to be reminded, whether we're male or female and whatever our heart's desires are, is we've got to know the character of God.
And that's where Eve really got off track. On minute 1, that's where she got off track. And she, instead of looking up to who her God was, she looked level, actually lower, and listened to this season, this earth. And that's where you and I can get caught up. We can start getting our eyes instead of heavenward to earthbound. And when we're earthbound, we'll start to even define happiness by finding things in this world. And that's where Eve wanted more. Like, oh, I gotta have more. I've gotta have the bigger house. I've gotta have the better husband. My kids need to be perfect. And that's where Eve was so tempted, because this is what looked like she needed. I need more of this. And that's when she started micromanaging, trying to, oh, honey, ask you to take the trash out, but I tell you how to take the trash out. Right there, that's like her fear has now shifted into control. And then the disempowering by doing. I am the guilty one here. Like, I've done a lot of therapy, and I probably can always do more, but I did not know that that was not a good thing. And what we mean by that is that when I do for another person what they can do for themselves, I immediately disempower them. But a lot of women think that if I help and do, then they'll end up being the way I want them to. And so it's an unconscious way to control, but I end up not only not getting what I want, but now I've ruined another person.
True story.
Okay.
Years ago, I had a mother in my office, and we were coming to the end of a counseling session, and she said, oh, could I ask you one more question? And I said, sure. And she said, do you think it is wrong of me to tie my son's shoes before he goes to school every morning? And I said, well, how old is your son? It's a true story. She said, well, he's in the 6th grade. And I kind of chuckled, and I said, well, I'm sure your son enjoys you tying his shoes as a 6th grader. But I said, what you're creating is a monster. Because what we always say is anything that you do for another person that they can and need to do for themselves, you make them an emotional cripple. And that's so much of what you're talking about.
And we do that with an unconscious motivation to actually get our needs met, you know, and that's where we've got to first consciously, and as Abigail said, number one, I've got to believe my needs are going to be met when I look at God. I've got to get my eyes off of this earthbound comparison of I need more is better. More is not better. I have people in my office who have everything, and yet they're not satisfied. More is not the answer. And then, you know, that again can shift us. And so many guys are always going, my wife is such a nag. She's always criticizing me. Well, that comes out of her instead of asking for what she needs. And then number one, it'll clarify what is need and want. It invites them to be a participant versus a source of, I demand that you do this for me. See, that's out of balance too.
Well,
and one of the things that, you know, if we kind of zoom out and look at just, you know, with our partners or male-female dynamics,
even
with
your friends,
I think a lot of that fear of missing out is that it's not only fear of missing out, it can also be a fear of sitting with discomfort.
Yeah.
So I think that it's almost a way of, like, the control is a way of to quickly resolve, so I don't have to see a child still upset. And I get a happy child when I tie his shoes. So that's one of the things that it's like, okay, but if we are still so uncomfortable to sit with discomfort, we're not trusting the Lord to actually hold our pain. We don't have to go to him with our painful emotions. We don't have to go to him with our desires. We get to depend on ourselves. So we also have to be very aware of our sin nature. It is going to fight going to the Lord, to trust him fully, and to believe in his character and what he can provide for us.
Well, and that's why I even in the blog gave specific steps. You know, Colossians 3 says, set your mind on things above. Honestly, y'all, we need to wake up every morning and say, I know my bent is to want more and fear of missing out and to look to this earth to meet it. So, Lord, I want to look to you. And whether that's reading your Bible, whether it's journaling, our practicing gratitude. Start there, lady. Then, so
Yes, we're about out of time, but you've got to check out our blog for those practical tips of what you can do to sit with the discomfort. And you know what? Men, listen too. Be able to see what drives a woman with that fear and help calm her fear. Thanks for listening to us. We hope to see you next week. Check out the blog at hardinlive.com.
Have a good week.